Alvaro Silberstein. Welcome to the Trips and Global on Wheels podcast hour.
Hello, Ming. Excited to be here talking to you. Thank you for the invitation.
Of course. So I'll just do a brief intro and we'll start squared away. I know you're on a bit of a time crunch. So you're the founder of Wheel of the World, which I'm excited for you to elaborate on. Of course, that's an organization that helps people with disabilities and seniors with accessible travel. Um, so I did quite a bit of background research on your company, and it's really impressive. And I was very excited with all the work that you've done. So in its first year, the company, has successfully had more than 500 customers with disabilities. And you can fact check me after experiencing your exotic locations all over the world. So people with what types of disabilities have participated in your trips so far?
Yes, so we started in 2018, and the first year we had around 500 customers. We've been growing with a pandemic in the middle that was kind of tough. Today we're doing around 500 travelers using our services every month, and and yes, we started with exotic destinations like Machu Picchu and Patagonia, and today we offer more than 200 destinations in 13 countries, and not only like exotic travel adventures, but also helping people to book hotels, book transportation, and allowing them to travel with all the accessibility details they need.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of logistics that's involved, as you know, traveling as a person with a disability. And depending on what types of disabilities, sometimes there's more coordinating than others. I use a manual wheelchair and I've traveled to over 30 countries around the world. And I love to travel. So I do have some understanding of the some of the logistical hiccups and and to create a company that really tries to help people in accessibility can get really complicated. And so I guess this next question is more organizational challenges more than travel challenges. But what's your biggest challenge with starting this company? And what helped you persevere through it? Because as I was just alluding to, I'm sure there's a lot of hurdles and nuances to trying to get access to the different types of information.
Yes, the first challenges that we faced were basically on how to get the resources to, on one side, uh, design these travel experiences that we wanted to start with in these remote destinations, and also the resources to put out a brand that people will trust and people will find out about. And we were very like creative at the beginning on how to get these resources to bootstrap our organization and our early product. And we made a lot of collaborations with different brands that allow us to co-design with local travel operators um, these travel experiences that we offered. Also, these brands allow us to generate a lot of content that we put out there on social media, on different channels that allow us to get access to our early adopters and first customers. So it was challenging, like to bootstrap our company at the beginning and get the resources to build like our minimum viable product. That was the first offering that we had at willtheworld.com. But we were creative, and we kind of did it on a alternative way, as most of other startups do it, by partnering with other organizations that will allow us to leverage their visibility to what we wanted to do. To answer also the question that you asked me initially about different types of disabilities, We have had today more than 10,000 travelers with disabilities that have experienced our services, and we have had a lot of different disabilities that comes, of course, mobility, sensorial, cognitive. The reality today is that 90% of those customers are people that have mobility challenges, okay? Being wheelchair users, or people who have some difficulties or challenges when physical challenges to move around. And we've been focusing on how to be a great solution for them initially. And then our vision is how we can expand further to be relevant also to other disabilities. But today, the majority are people with physical disabilities.
Yeah, that's impressive. 10,000. Wow. Um, yeah, that's very impressive. Even if the majority are mobility disabilities and the logistical challenges of getting a really good quality service out there. Um, is very impressive. So I read in an article, I love national parks. I've been to all of the national parks in the lower 48 states in the United States.
Wow.
And so I know you went to school in Berkeley, so you know what the lower 48 means, not excluding Alaska and Hawaii and American Samoa. So I read in an article that said and I quote the article, it says, getting the people who run things like a national park, like national parks and travel attractions to collaborate with us is the main challenge we continue to face. I believe they were quoting you. What kind of challenges are you encountering when collaborating with national parks and travel attractions?
Um, okay, so today at some point, I don't know from when is that quote, but uh, many times it has been challenging to find that offering at national parks that can be accessible. To help our customers to build like a compelling travel experiences to go to the national parks in the US. Today our focus is more on big cities, on big destinations, and we've been having great collaborations with destination marketing organizations. So, for example, visit Fort Lauderdale, or visit Miami, or visit Portland, Oregon. Those are destination marketing organizations that their purpose is to promote travel to those destinations. And we've been very effective to collaborate with them and to partner with them so that we can help them understand what's the accessibility offer of their destination, how they can improve it, and how they can promote it. And so we have switched our approach in order to gather more offering to willtheworld.com, more than partnering with national parks, partnering with these destination marketing organizations across the US.
Yeah, thank you. I think we're gonna backpedal just a little bit, because even though I've done research on you and I know that you have a disability and more or less what inspired the whole company, could you share what your disability is, how you came to have that disability, and what inspired the company and its mission?
Sure. So I'm 38 years old. I am based in California. I live in Berkeley, but originally, and I have lived almost all my life in Chile. And when I was 18 years old, I was in my first year of studying engineering in Chile, in Santiago. I had a car accident. I broke my neck at level C5. So I have a spinal cord injury since then. I have partially paralyzed my body from the chest down. I partially move my arms. I don't move the fingers of my hands. And I am a full-time manual wheelchair user. And well, I assume that many people from our audience has experienced spinal cord injuries. That is quite a challenge to adjust and to accommodate with this new reality. Same was for me, but it was possible, and I through the process I was able to become more independent, to get back to college, to work, to have social activities, social life, and travel has always been very important for me since very young. I decided to move to the US to do my MBA here at UC Berkeley, specifically because I wanted to travel abroad and to live the experience, even it was challenging having a disability. And here in California, I was able to experience much more when it comes to travel and when it comes to when it happened to explore places and to visit different national parks, etc. And that's why I decided to set a challenge that it was a dream for me, that was visiting the most famous destination in Chile, in my home country, that is called Torres del Paine National Park in the Chilean side of Patagonia. It's a stunning place, beautiful place, one of the eight wonders of the world. And always I assumed that it was impossible for me to explore that place given the lack of accessibility. And with my experience here in California, I said, okay, I reached my good friend Camilo, that today is my co-founder, and we started to design how we could organize a trip to Torres del Paine together and 5 other friends, me being the only one in a wheelchair. And we realized that there was zero information about accessibility. Nobody else did the trip before that we wanted to do, that was a famous W trek through the different trails and mountains of Patagonia. And long story short, I became the first person ever in a wheelchair to complete that W trek in Torres del Paine National Park. We decided when we realized it was pretty challenging and there was no information about accessibility about that destination, we decided to transform our trip into a project that was doing for the very first time Torres del Paine in a wheelchair, with the ambitions then to open the path to other people to repeat this. We needed to acquire like a specific hiking wheelchair that allowed us to do the double trek. My friend Camilo needed to do a scouting trip to figure out where to stay, how to move around, how we would do this trip. So as I mentioned in the beginning, we convinced brands to sponsor this project so we could do this trip and then leave the chair over there so other people could repeat this trip. And we made this happen. It was the most amazing experience of my life, exploring this beautiful place. And then what happened is that our story went viral with a lot of videos that UC Berkeley and other organizations promoted. And hundreds of people started reaching out to us because they also wanted to explore Patagonia. And with Camilo, we started organizing this trip to other people, basically because we had the information on how to do it. And that's how we realized that there was a need of building a service that would allow people to help them find all the accessibility details they need when they travel. And that's why we founded Will the World. And today, willtheworld.com are users that are people with accessibility needs, people with disabilities plus their families. They're going and booking hotels, tours, accessible transportation, travel packages with all the accessibility details they need. Our promise is to guarantee them the accessibility when booking through us, and we do it by we collect the details of accessibility of every single product that can be booked at willtheworld.com. Our users, they build their profile stating what are their specific needs when it comes to travel, so we can recommend them exactly what best fits their needs, and we guarantee them the accessibility once they book it, like being with them all through the experience through our customer service team.
Wow, that's a big guarantee. And I'm assuming, obviously there's been quite a bit of success given how much the company's grown and uh, and the number of people that are increasing to be your customers. So you were mentioning earlier, you were saying manual wheelchair. I was curious as to um, how you chose to use a manual wheelchair instead of electric wheelchair because you did say you had some um, limited functions with your fingers. And with manual wheelchair, you do have, I use a manual wheelchair too. You have to push the push rooms. How did you come to make that decision?
That's a really good question, and it's an interesting answer because yes, I'm a manual wheelchair. I am able to push it with the push rims. Sometimes I need support specifically with long ramps going up or down. But in flat areas, for example, in my house or in any like indoor place, I can be totally independent. Uh, I come from a country that is not as accessible as the US. And that's why having a manual wheelchair allows you to overcome some barriers that you might encounter. For example, like a street that doesn't have like a ramp to go down and cross. With a manual wheelchair, someone can easily help you out, right?
Mm.
And that was my life at the beginning of my injury was dealing with many obstacles down in Chile, and I got used to a manual wheelchair. Now that I live in the US, I am kind of hybrid. I have a manual wheelchair, but I also have like a scooter that I attach in the front of my wheelchair to go around with electric assist. This scooter I have, there's many brands, different brands. The one that I use is called Batec, BATEC. Is a Spanish product, and and it's amazing. I mean, I can like attach to my manual wheelchair and disattach it by my own, and I use it pretty much to go everywhere. So normally, when I am in an indoor space, I am totally in my manual wheelchair. When I go outside the streets, moving around, I use this scooter that I attach to my in the front of my wheelchair, and this allows me also to use bike lanes. It's pretty fast. You can get even to more like around between 15 and 20 miles per hour. Uh, so that's the way I move around. And to close the answer is it's interesting. Like in the US, the majority of quadriplegics as me, they use power wheelchairs, big power wheelchairs, which is not the case in other places of the world. In Europe, also in Latin America, there's more willing of the people to use manual wheelchairs, even if they need any like more assist. In my case, I like it because it makes me feel that I'm more active, right? And even that many times I need assistance in my manual wheelchair, like I'm able to push around all day, and this allows me to be more active and be more moving more.
Yeah, yeah, thank you for sharing your insights on that. I think, having traveled to South America and Africa and Asia, Southeast Asia, you're right. I do relate to the fact that it's easier for people to help you when you're in a lighter manual wheelchair. I have a
Yeah.
sports tie light wheelchair, and it's 15 pounds. It's easy for me to even um carry in and out of the car, assemble and disassemble. And so with a electric chair, it's a lot heavier and it's a lot more complicated as well in terms of batteries and other pieces and parts that are in motion. And so the response isn't necessarily as straightforward as you first think.
Yes, and I have a tie light as well. I love that brand. I mean, the chairs are amazing. I think they are always very like like they last forever, all the different components. And and for traveling also it's easier, right? With a manual wheelchair, there's less probabilities that the airlines will damage your equipment. Um, but anyways, I understand that people like many times being like an electric wheelchair can allow people to be more independent, and it is my case that I solved with the Batek, right? With this like scooter that I put in the front.
Yeah, exactly. To continue from our conversation, you've had some really amazing experiences, and some of which I haven't gotten to do. I know you got to go scuba diving, which I know people have to get a certificate for. So what were the challenges of that experience, and what was the what you enjoyed about it in terms, and then like talk to us about adaptations. What kinds of adaptations were made so that you could successfully enjoy that experience?
Yes, so at Will the World, we always also want to push the boundaries of accessibility and how we can make people have amazing experiences, right? Even things that they never thought that it it would be possible for them. In my case, I have scuba diving has been something that I have done like more than 5 times, I think 5 or 7 times in different places of the world. My first time was in Australia, also in Chile, here in California, and the one that we offer to our customers that it's amazing. It's in Ribera Maya in Mexico. So we have a very cool and experienced scuba diver guide whose name is Leo Morales. He also has a disability. He has a one leg amputee, and he has specialized in adaptive scuba diving, and he travels all around the world training scuba diving instructors and schools on how to do scuba diving with people with disabilities. This is an experience that if you are staying in, for example, Cancun or Playa del Carmen, that are two like destinations that our customers they book a lot through willtheworld.com. We can arrange like an accessible transportation to Playa del Carmen Marina, where you get a ferry and you cross the ferry to Cozumel. And Cozumel is a beautiful island that that also receives a lot of cruises and a lot of customers. When you get to Cozumel, we arrange an accessible taxi. There's like around 3 or 4 accessible taxis, wheelchair accessible taxis in Cozumel, and we get to the scuba diving place where the entrance to a boat is flat. They manage to level the marina to the entrance of the boat, and people there are experienced on how to help you to get into the water. And in my case, I am not able to like swim by my own inside the water, so I needed an instructor to be pushing me all the time. And Leo was like diving backwards, watching me all the time and communicating with me through eyes blinking if I was good, bad, or I was okay, or I need anything. Um, I have done it like 3 times in Cozumel, and it's one of my best experience in my life. It's very safe. I felt safe every time. I last time that it was last week, I saw 3 turtles swimming around.
Wow.
So it's an activity that also, as a wheelchair user, it's you feel free. I mean, it's the closest experience to fly, because you are like immersed in the water, sustained by the water, and you are in this new alternative world that is amazing.
Yeah, it's incredible. I love to swim. I swim every other day or every couple days. And today was my swim day. So
Nice.
I would love to go scuba diving sometime, but for some reason I always thought that it was out of reach for me just because of my disability. Um, but since you've done it for upwards of 5 to 7 times, it's obviously possible. And I didn't realize, the world is such a rich resource place. I didn't realize there are people who specialize in helping people with disabilities with scuba diving, specifically.
So yes, and if you are a good swimmer, it will be even easier for you. So I always tell to people, the only thing that you need to make sure you can do is breathe by your mouth, because you will have I don't know how you call it in English, but the thing that allows you to breathe that is connected with the tank,
Mm.
and you have it on our mouth, and you have to very calm breathe in.
Yeah, I think it's called an intubator.
Okay, breathe out. That's the only thing that you have to do, because in my case also, I cannot decompress. Decompress is when you like close the holes of your nose and you blow out, so you can decompress your ears. That's something that you need to do as you go down. Um, and I cannot do it because I don't have any movement in my fingers. So how we did it with Leo is that if I blinked 3 times, he will put his hand in my nose so I can blow out and I could decompress. Okay. That's something that I'm looking to you that you are also able to do by your own. And so it's all about concentrating in breathing calmly, very calm, and enjoying and watching this beauty. And for the people that might have some fears about it, uh, what 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 you can do is with an instructor is try the first time in a swimming pool, right? And get used to breathing with the tank, and get used to all this, so then you can go into the ocean. And also something to be aware, like, um in your first times, you don't go much down, right? It's about, I think in meters, I'm sorry, but it's about between 3 to 8 meters, and still you can watch amazing things in that depth. So I encourage you to do it, Ming. Whenever you want to do it, let me know, and we can make it happen.
That's awesome. Yeah, I would love to do it at some point. What did you say Leo's full name was? Because I'm sure there are some listeners who will be listening and watching this will be interested.
Leo Morales, he has
Okay.
an amazing story. I encourage you also, you Ming, to interview him, because he's a really cool guy, very professional on what he does. And he also has a pretty interesting disability story that it's worth to hear.
Yeah, yeah, I will definitely check into it. That's awesome. That's a bucket list adventure that I want to check off for sure.
And
Um,
also, sorry to interrupt, Ming, but also it's it has been our very part of our manifesto, to put it that way, at Will the World, of figuring out on how to make people do amazing experiences. Will the World started by me going to a place that I never thought it would be impossible for me to explore. It was possible. I had the best experience of my life. So we always try to encourage tour operators, destinations, and promote these kind of activities that, in my opinion, when you like, makes you feel that your disabilities doesn't limit in anything, right? When I was last week, I did it the last time, I just did it last week. When I was going back, the hotel I was staying, after having this amazing experience, I felt so realized, because it was okay. Our lives are challenging. It's hard to move around, even though I was scuba diving, watching turtles, and exploring an amazing coral barrier reef. So I think this type of experiences allows you to reflect that there's no limit for us, even when we have disabilities.
yeah, yeah, that's a great message. And more importantly, it's so wonderful that you're making it possible, making the impossible possible for people to experience all of the um, different exotic uh, experiences, for lack of a better word, and seeing different parts of the world. Um, so the next couple questions will probably be a bit personal and maybe even existential, depending on how you like to respond. Um, is so how has your perspective or worldview changed since accruing a disability?
Whoa. I mean, I never thought I would be disabled before my accident. That right? And for me, even I thought it sometimes, and the worst thing that could happen to me was having a disability and not being able to walk and being in a wheelchair, right? For me, before my accident, that would have been the worst thing that could happen to me. Because I was very active, I did many sports, I love travel, as I mentioned, and that worst thing happened to me. And even though I'm a happy person, I feel totally like realized with all the things that I have done in my life, and I am convinced that even with a disability, you can have a great life and you can pursue your dreams. So my that has been the mindset that having a disability changed in my case. Um, and looking backwards, I'm proud of who I am, and disability is part of my life. I've been more time in a wheelchair than not in a wheelchair. um, and I think that having a disability has allowed me to become a better person compared to how would I have been without.
Yeah. I've said similar things in the past as well, in that having a disability has made me a more empathetic, patient uh person. Um, I think I've said that a lot in the past, actually. At the same time, though, nobody knows how things would have been otherwise, right?
Yeah.
Um, but I
And
think
also
I
sorry, also to complement for the people that are hearing this and they might be having an injury since few time, right? And they are just injured and they are just dealing with disabilities. This doesn't mean that we haven't been overwhelmed and depressed and sad and not and thinking about not having a disability, right? We have had that thoughts, and it has been tough, and it doesn't like being proud of who I am and being proud about my disability and dealing with it. That doesn't mean that it's not hard. And sometimes I think, oh, I just don't want to be disabled anymore, right? And that are thoughts that sometimes I have. Um, when I was just injured, I saw these people that were visiting me that were injured, that had similar injuries, and they were already very solved in their lives. They had families, they had like a boyfriend or a girlfriend, and they were doing things, working whatsoever. And in the hospital, I said, it's impossible that I can have the strength that these guys do. And it turns out that I did, right? I figured it out. And I think that's the case for most of the people, right?
Yeah, when the problems comes, the solution is also right beside it if we're willing to look. And I really appreciate your positivity, which is what I strive to be as well. I try to look on the positive side, the glass is half full type of mentality. Next question is a bit personal, and like I want to preface it by saying that, if anything feels too uncomfortable, you don't have to answer. So I know you had a girlfriend when you got into a car accident. And so how has the dating experience for you um with a disability when comparing it without a disability?
Great question. I had a girlfriend, yes, and that didn't work out. and and it was hard at that point for her, for me um to get used to a new relationship, right? And I was 18 years old, so most probably that relationship um wouldn't work even with my disability or not, right? And then it was a process to gain confidence in myself. It wasn't also from day to night. It took me some years to feel confident again on going forward to meet people and to date and to have intimacy with them and all that. It took me a while also. I learned to, um, and I have had some failures and some successes through the process. Today I'm super happy that I've been with a person for the past 6 years. We are getting married in January of 2025, and we have been living together for the past three years. Um, I'm a not 100% independent person given my disability. I need some assistance, specifically in my morning routines. And my mindset about relationship has been not not to my partner not become my caregiver, right? I am always pushing myself to not my partner be my caregiver. So she's the person who I love and she loves me, and not someone who I depend on when it comes to my disability. And I think that has worked pretty good for me, because we focus our relationship in love and not in other things. Um, she's an amazing person, and she had to get used to my dynamics and for example, receiving a person in our place to care give me every morning, right? And she's okay with that. Um, but anything, I think it's possible. I think it's all about like I have realized that many times the limits were on my side rather than the others. And even through this, I've been in a wheelchair for 20 years already, and many times I was the person putting the limits on a potential relationship rather than others. And with my fiance now, I realized that this has been a time that I didn't, and that allowed me to 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 have an amazing relationship with her until now.
Well, congratulations on the soon to be wedding coming up, it sounds like. And thank you for being so candid with your experiences as well. Picking up from that topic, how has your disability affected your view of masculinity and your um, perspective of what it means to be a man or manhood in general?
What a good question. I give you an example that like very early in my when I got injured, I needed much more help than today. So, for example, if I went to a party with some friends and a friends would pick me up, they would need me to transfer to a car, right? And given my biases, most of the times I was more willing to ask for help to men compared to women, because I didn't want to, like, I don't know, like I wanted I felt that I wouldn't feel like a man if a woman would help me on stuff like that, which is so absurd, right? And through the process, gaining confidence again, learning about myself, learning that people were willing to help me, that was something stupid to think about, right? I mean, and I I don't know, I learned on assume that I need support, and I was lucky that people were willing to help me, and that didn't make me less masculine or whatsoever. Like, even I realized that people were I felt um felt me attractive to them as my girlfriend, even by me not being able to be totally independent. And so it's all about self-confidence, and it's all about learning to gain that self-confidence. It's not something that it was from day to night again. It took me a while, and I was able to accomplish, given all the support that I received from my family and friends, that allowed me to be confident in myself, that I could accomplish different things when it came to work and to social life and to dating and to intimacy, etc., etc.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for that vivid example too of, when you said when you initially got injured, you needed a lot more help and asking male or female. I can't quite say that's something I've ever thought about. Quite so.
It was real stupid on my side, to be honest. And I realized through the process, right? And it was, yeah, it was just that.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's stupid. It's definitely an adjustment for sure, especially, depending on which countries we come from, our variations of different
Exactly.
concepts of masculinity, femininity changes quite a bit as well. Um, would you say, yeah, go ahead.
Absolutely. I mean, cultures makes a big difference, and as a Latin American, many times like we want to feel like a macho, right? And also like generations, right? Like I was injured in 2004. Um, Today is such a different world we live in, right? I think we are much more open to eliminate those biases and to overcome those mental barriers and mental biases that we always that we have had in the history regarding gender and and ethnics, etc.
Yeah, you're right. Some of the concepts and the um black and white roles of male and female, whether it be masculinity or femininity, or the roles that each gender has changed quite a bit over the years in the last couple decades as well. So the other questions coming up are regarding disability advocacy in general. So as you probably already know, my platform is specifically focus on people with mobility disabilities, but I do interview from people with all sorts of other types of disabilities as well. So my question is, and you use a wheelchair as well, so I'm sure you've made these trips wheelchair accessible. So the question is, how have you made these trips wheelchair accessible? What adaptations or arrangements have you made to make it wheelchair accessible? Feel free to go into a little bit more detail on that.
Great question. So we believe that an experience, in order to be accessible end to end, requires an accessible way to move around, so transportation, an accessible place to stay, so accommodation, and accessible activities to be done. Uh, and that's how we ideate our specifically what we call in our website multi-day trips and group tours. So if we plan a trip for any person end to end, this will consider that we have figured out where you will stay, how you will move around at that destination, and what are the activities that are accessible to be done. Because that way, even if you visit a place that is not very accessible, if you figure out that three things, you can have an accessible experience. And when we go into each of those, we believe that every person with accessibility needs have different accessibility needs. So for example, I see you that you are not sitting in your wheelchair, right? And you have like full mobility in your arms compared to me in my that's what I am assuming. So that means that
Correct.
that means that you might be able to transfer, for example, to a car compared to me that I need to stay in my wheelchair and I need a wheelchair accessible vehicle. Or for you, it's okay in an accommodation to have a bathtub compared to me that I need a rolling shower. Or it's okay for you to transfer to a bed that is 25 inches plus of height compared to me that I need a lower chair in order to transfer. So we believe that the accessibility is not a binary thing of yes, it's accessible or not is accessible. It depends on each person. So that's why we have collected the details of accessibility in detail. If you go on our website and you see the hotels, we have measured the width of the doors, the height of the bed, the type of shower, if it does have grab bars or not, if there's a space underneath the bed, for example, for people who uses a hoist, a Hoyer or a Hoyer lift. And so we go into the details so each person can understand if something is accessible or not for them. So they can understand and they can have a clear expectation of the vacation and how to plan it in advance. So we've been, and we have, when it comes to advocacy, I mean, once we collect the data points of any like travel service that we list at willtheworld.com, a hotel, a tour, a museum, whatsoever, we provide those services an assessment on how is their accessibility, how they can improve it, where are the gaps. And I mean, we are making hotels put automatic push button, push openers for the entrance of accessible rooms. We have made restaurants become more accessible when it comes to their bathrooms. We have made a tour like experiences even in Peru and in Chile to adapt ramps to get inside a beach, for example. So we are always pushing these services to become more accessible. For example, I was in in the hotel that I was last week in Cancun. After our assessment, they decided to buy a beach wheelchair for better access of their disabled travelers so they can access the beach and the ocean. And, and that's our advocacy related to our purpose as a company, that is that we want to make the world more accessible.
That's great. Even on vacation, you're doing advocacy work and looking at the details of
Yes.
how to make environments more accessible. Um, so last I read it, you had a team of 40 in your organizations. There's probably been some changes. So do you hire people with disabilities? If yes, what disabilities does your workforce have?
Yes, around 12, 15% of our team is people with disabilities. So it's around 6 people today from the 40 that we have, that we are. Majority of them are like, all of them are people with physical disabilities. Okay, there's someone who has like a multiple sclerosis. There's two quadriplegics, and around 50% of the 40 people that represent our team, they have a direct member of their families who have a disability. So there's people that have like parents with disabilities, or a brother or a husband, etc. We want to the approach that we have had is to hire the best person possible for that role, right? And many times we've been able to hire someone who has a disability, which is amazing. Sometimes don't. Sometimes the role requires someone that has a disability 100% because we need someone who knows the community, who knows the needs, etc. So for everyone there that is out there, like if you are interested in working at Will the World, of course we don't discriminate when it comes to disabilities, as we are a company for disabilities. So feel free to reach me out or reach our company if you are interested in some of the openings that we have.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. So I'm going to quote another article that said Silverstein works closely with businesses to offer fully accessible travel experiences, making it possible for people with disabilities to enjoy destinations such as Machu Picchu, Easter Island, Patagonia, unquote. So, as you know, people with disabilities around the world have a lower purchasing power than the mainstream population. So, how much does it cost to travel to one of your destinations? And then have you made efforts to make it more affordable for people with disabilities?
Absolutely. It depends. It depends because, yes, our travel experience in Machu Picchu is kind of expensive. The majority, 90% of our customers are, they live in the US. And traveling to Machu Picchu is expensive. You have to take an international flight. You will need assistance there to go around some places. You will need to rent, uh, and that can cost, like, for someone who has a disability, let's say, I don't know, from 3,000 to 5,000, it depends, right? Also going to Iceland or somewhere else. But we also have trips and offering inside the US in more than 50 destinations. Let's say you live in Florida, right, Ming? We have different offering in Fort Lauderdale, in Tampa, in Miami, in Panama Beach, in Palm Springs, in California, in Oregon, in Michigan, and in New York. And of course, those travel experiences will be less expensive for someone who has a disability. We always push not only to have like high luxury offer. Most of the times, the most luxury offer is the one that is more accessible. But we like to push to find also those convenient offerings when it comes to accommodation, transportation, and activities for our customers. And we are always uh, offering alternatives on how to pay a trip. So we offer installments to pay for a trip also. And something that is live right now. We many times, like twice a year, we do a giveaway of a trip
Mm.
as and we encourage people to apply. And one person, in this case, in this moment, we are promoting a giveaway to South Africa, to a wheelchair accessible safari in South Africa for 5 days for two people. And one person plus a companion will win a all included trip, including the flights, the accommodation, the transportation, and the experiences to South Africa. So we are always
Wow.
trying to figure out and collaborating with other entities so we can have these opportunities for our community.
Can I put my name in there still?
Absolutely. Go for it.
That sounds amazing. Oh my gosh. What a great offer. What a great prize to win. Um,
Yes. We already did one last, like 6 months ago, to Costa Rica.
wow.
We already did once before to Mesa, Arizona. So we are always pushing these opportunities also to allow people to travel, um, even if they cannot afford it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's wonderful. That's great. All the advocacy you're doing so that it's as accessible as possible, not just infrastructure, but also pricing. So, what advice do you have about managing people and driving a mission forward? So, I read in an article that I quote that you acknowledge being the CEO of a 40-person company can be a heavy lift. Still, as a self-described workaholic who loves his job, it's all worthwhile. So you secure at one point secured a $2 million investment that allowed you to double your staff back in 2021. So what I guess the question is looping back is what advice do you have about managing people and driving a mission forward?
Yes. So in my experience, like having a powerful mission, uh, a purpose that makes sense to people is the most important thing, because that way you will and making sure that the people that join that mission is there for the right reasons, right? So first is like the easiest way to manage a team and to give a good direction of a team is to have a purpose that is meaningful and it's meaningful for them. That's the first thing. Second thing is to understand and not pretend that you are the most knowledgeable person to accomplish any task in your organization. I would say a good leader is not the one that has an answer for everything. A good leader is the one that is smart on how to find the right resources to solve anything, right? And that means that many people from our team needs to complement to you and are more experienced and more knowledgeable than you in other things. So you can complement your tasks, your talents, your experience. Um, be humble, be empathetic, um, be honest. Those are the things that will allow you to become a good leader and also be open when it comes to feedback, so people can tell you what they think in a genuine way, so you can improve also.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So along the same lines, we only have 3 minutes, but go really quickly. So you've been able to raise millions of dollars for your organization. What are some marketing tips you can give to people who are doing similar mission-oriented work? Not necessarily the same kind of work, but similar in terms of it being mission-oriented. What are some marketing tips that you've been able to implement to raise the millions to execute your mission?
So I assume I believe that the marketing initiatives needs to be allocated in order to grow your business when it comes to customers, right? So I would say like generate meaningful content for them. That would be the best advice, like and meaningful, thoughtful content that can differentiate from others. I would say that that's something that I think is the best way to marketing yourself. When it comes to fundraising, is to have a big mission, share that mission with the most people you need, talk to entrepreneurs, talk to investors, don't feel shy about it. And as long as you grow and allow them to track how you are gaining momentum and traction, the time will come that they will decide to invest in you.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And then in closing, what is your ultimate dream with Wheel of the World, and how can people follow you and, follow your work to help you realize that dream? And that's the last question.
Our dream is to make millions of people traveling to thousands of destinations anywhere in the world, and that accessibility is not an issue anymore when it comes to travel. How they can find us? willtheworld.com, our Instagram, our LinkedIn, our Facebook community group. We have a pretty cool community group in Facebook that is called Will the World Accessible Travel Community. And you can find me on LinkedIn, and please reach me out if you want.
Okay, thank you so much, Alvaro. Before we timed out, I really appreciate your time and your candid responses. It's been fascinating talking to you. So thank you for spending the extra time, because I know we went a little over as well.
Thank you, Ming. I love what you do and keep generating amazing content for our community.